What's up? We've got another episode of No Tracers coming right at you. Thank you for tuning in this week. This is the No Tracers podcast. Step into the world of decay, abandonment, and chaos. The story of an urban explorer starts here, at the beginning. Welcome to the podcast you've been looking for all along. This is No Tracers. Here, we take only photos. We leave only footprints. And remember, leave no trace. Hey, welcome. If you're new to the show, hit the subscribe button. Trust me, you're not going to regret it. My name is Kay, just the letter K, and I'm known as No Tracers. You can find me on Instagram at no.tracers, or my TikTok is No Tracers. My YouTube channel, that is relatively new, is No Tracers Urbex. Really trying to grow that channel. I'm putting all of my urban exploring content as well as this podcast up on that channel. So if you guys are interested, definitely go check it out. So this week on the podcast, I'm speaking with TheDankTeamExplores. Well, one half of the Dank Team Explores. I'm speaking with Shane this week. Super excited to share his story with you guys here on the No Tracers podcast. We've actually been trying to coordinate this episode for quite a while now, but our schedules have been crazy this year, especially mine. I've been on tour all year, so it's hard for me to schedule podcasts. As you guys might have seen, there have been a few weeks where I was absent from uploading. That's just because I've been in Australia for 2 weeks. If you go back and listen to last week's episode, I actually dive into an urban exploration I went on while I was in Australia. Absolutely incredible time. And if you guys want to check that out, definitely go to the last episode. Before we get into this show, just a couple things. So Amazon Prime is having special deals right now. So there's discounts on a lot of stuff. If you go down in the bottom of the description of this episode or any of my episodes, I actually have Amazon affiliate links to different gear products that I recommend for urban exploring. Things like backpacks, flashlights, shoes, and everything in between that you could possibly imagine that you might need for urban exploring. I'm always adding to that list, so if you guys are looking for some new gear, if you're just getting into the hobby and don't know what to get, my recommendations are down in the bottom of the description. I get a little bit of a kickback every time you guys click on one of my links and buy something, so thank you for supporting me through the things you purchase. It means a lot to me. Otherwise, there are a couple ways to support this podcast and what I'm doing here at No Tracers. You can actually pick up a copy of my new book, How to Explore Abandoned Buildings, which is a collaboration I did with another explorer by the name of Cursed Sketchbook, or Mr. Sketch, as I like to call him. So we did this cool collaboration where I took 50 photos and he illustrated on top of them with his drawings. And I created 50 tips for urban exploring, and we compiled this book together. So if you guys want to get a copy of that, or my first book, No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary, which is just my stories and my explorations, you can go to notracers.com/shop. The link is down in the description if you guys just want to click directly on it. You can pick up a copy of one of my books. It really helps me out, and it's something I love to do. It's my least profitable, form of making money, but I love it more than anything. I love signing those and shipping them out to people all over the world. It's one of the coolest things that I get to do. So if you guys want to support me that way, you can. The last way is picking up a case of Liquid Death Mountain Water. So Liquid Death is a partner of mine. They support everything I do. They support my live music. They support this urban exploring stuff. And Liquid Death, if you don't know what it is, it's water. It's canned water. Okay. I've been trying to get away from plastic water bottles for years, and finally there's an alternative: canned water. These guys actually donate part of their proceeds to cleaning up the oceans, which I think is super admirable and super cool. So if you guys want to get involved in what they're doing, and if you want more water, which is something you should have, go to liquiddeath.com, get a case of water, get a set of koozies, and use code JustTheLetterK for 10% off your order. That's a huge way to support this show and what I'm doing. So thank you guys for keeping the lights on. Thank you for keeping this show going. Without further ado, the Dank Team Explores. Welcome to No Tracers. Please introduce yourself and how long you've been exploring to the No Tracers audience.
What's up, everyone? My name is Shane from the Dank Team Explores. I'm only half the crew. My wife Audra's at work, so she wasn't able to make the podcast, so I'll be speaking for her. we've been exploring for probably say almost coming up on 3 years now, 2.5 years. So we're pretty new to it still.
Yeah, I mean, what got you into exploring in the first place? Like, I know you do this as a team, but like for you or for both of you, like what got you into exploring in the first place? What made you catch the bug?
I feel like it's kind of like a lot of other people. The pandemic, happened and everyone's kind of stuck inside. We're just kind of hanging out, trying to find new things to do because, the world's just so screwed up. And um, it was, I don't know, I just started watching YouTube like heavily. I was really into the heavy YouTube scene and just kind of seeing what's out there and, you know, uh, stumbled across these abandoned, channels. And uh, it was crazy. I mean, I don't really understand it. It was the proper people got me hooked. I started watching them, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like absolutely wild. These people are out there, and all this stuff's left. I mean, as not an explorer, you drive by an abandoned building. The average person just kind of glance over it. You don't think about it, too much about it. You're like, whatever, it's an abandoned building. But I started watching these videos, and I'm like, wow, like this stuff left inside these places. I got to see this. So it was kind of on my end. I was kind of watching the videos and watching one with the wife one night. And we're just kind of watching along, just watching the videos, kind of super interested. And my wife looks over and she goes, hey, I know where this place is. And I'm kind of like, no way, like we can make this happen. Like, so it kind of started right there.
Wow, dang. Okay, so watching like the proper people, first of all, like what a great group to get introduced to. That's like, one of the best explorer groups out there. I think their content's amazing. The way they film, the way they, communicate and then kind of narrate what they're doing is absolutely incredible, so definitely stoked that you guys found them. So what was your first exploration then? Like, take me into that first time going into an abandoned building, what it felt like, what you experienced, like what was it about it that made it so special?
It was actually an awesome story. I'm going to get short because this could go on forever, but that first video we seen that I said that my wife knew where it was actually in one of the hometowns where she grew up as a kid. And it was crazy because she would tell me, like, I would drive by, all the time with my parents going to church. And this place had been around forever. And she's like, I've always wanted, since I was a little kid, what was in there. And I kind of knew the town because I was in maybe an hour from her. We grew up pretty close together. And I kind of knew where it was too, but I never really had interest in it. And, so to pull up and actually be like, oh my God, this is it. Like, I know where it is. The wife brought me, like, this is it. And you kind of get that feeling like, man, this is the first time. I don't know what to expect. We didn't know what to expect. We had no gear. We had like little pen lights and like our cell phone lights that we weren't prepared at all. But we parked the car and tried to find like the sneakiest way in. At the time we didn't know anything. So we were just looking for cops and we got in. It was a huge hospital. Pretty big campus. I mean, we started out with a banger. We didn't even do nothing easy. Like, we went right in, like balls to the walls. Like, it was crazy. We got in and it was a blast. We were really scared. Like, I was scared to go like on different floors and, the wife's always had like no fear. Like, you cannot scare my wife at all. It's like the craziest thing. Even to like this day, like wherever we go, she's like always the first one in, last one out. Like, you can't scare her. So she kind of like led the way and we just started going crazy after that.
That's amazing, dude. Like, the first time being a big hospital, like that's almost unheard of. Most people would go to like a house or like a farm or, something, something small scale, but you guys just, kind of knocked it out of the park with something giant to begin with. I think that's huge.
It was weird. Yeah. Like, I mean, it really could have been any spot that we went to first. It just so happened to be that the spot that they posted in the video. Like, she just knew right where it was. And it was like literally maybe a 45-minute drive from us, half hour. So it was like super like convenient too.
Yeah. Like, how long were you guys inside for that first time?
Oh man. So the Explorer, for the first time, we were only in for maybe like an hour, maybe 2 hours. But we like, listen, like, we like this now. Like, we were committed. We had a blast. We got in the car, hugged it out, high-fived it. Holy shit, we did it. And we just committed to go back and see all of it. So it actually took us probably, I want to say 2 or 3 weekends. I think it was 2 full weekends, Saturday and Sunday, both times, to see everything. There was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 buildings on the property, and by the time we're done, we've seen every square inch of that place. We just seen everything. Started doing more research about how to be more stealthy and just to get better gear. By the second weekend, we had already went and bought better flashlights. Picked up some boots. Just kind of got more established, and we knew we like this. We would love this. We wanted to get into this, and it was so much fun. Like looking back, I'm just like still shocked that that's how we started.
Wow, yeah. So speaking of like gear and figuring out like how to be more stealthy, like where did you guys go to find that information? A lot of people, maybe don't know about things like this podcast, that have tips like this, but like where did you guys go to find that information?
So I guess out of the two of us, I'm more the social butterfly as far as like social media and like, going on Reddit and forums. I'm kind of like the person who loves the computer. So I kind of reached out and just looked on forums. Like I said, went on Reddit, watched a lot more YouTube videos. There was a couple of guys on some forums where I was talking to, that really helped me. They were really cool. They were like, listen, this is kind of a crazy thing. But it's fun. This is probably what you should buy and this is what you should have. And, we bought respirators after a while because we realized how bad these buildings were. And it kind of just spiraled, I don't know. We ended up just buying all kinds of stuff. And then it just gets crazy because, you start getting into this stuff and it's just like a domino effect. So before we know, we're just like thousands of dollars in, and we're just like, all right, we're like full send now. Like this is what we're gonna do.
Dope. Yeah. So for people that are just getting into the hobby, do you have any gear recommendations for them? Like for me, this podcast, I have like a list in every episode at the bottom of the description where I put like Amazon links to like, respirators and shoes and like what brands do you use if you know them off the top of your head for, your boots, your backpack, flashlights, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we obviously started out with like cheaper stuff because I wasn't really sure yet, and we just went to like Walmart and Target, and I think we went to like Dick's Sporting Goods, and we kind of just looked around and just bought cheaper stuff. But after the first year, we were super, super committed. I'm like, you know what? If we're gonna do this, like, I want to have nice stuff, and if you're gonna carry a nice camera, you want to have a nice bag for it. You want to protect your stuff. You're in and out of windows. You're jumping off. Who knows what. So I like low pro bags. I have a nice low pro. The wife has a low pro. A nice pair of boots, or like, to be honest, a lot of people wear boots. Like I started with boots, and then I was like, I'm kind of a smaller person, so the boots are kind of big and clunky for me. I wasn't a big fan of them. So we actually both went out and bought some nice like Adidas hiking shoes. And believe it or not, they work really good. I like them better than boots because they're like still very grippy for walking and jumping and stuff, but like they're light. So I'm not killing myself walking around like for hours with this big clunky heavy boot. So I'd recommend just wear stuff that you're comfortable with, be safe, but like don't go and wear stuff that you're going to be, uncomfortable wearing for a couple hours at a time because this stuff gets heavy. You explore in the summer, it's hot, you're going to have a spot for water. So just think about stuff like that because it's crazy out there.
Yeah, definitely. And like a note on the boots, a lot of people are like, wear steel-toed boots because nails and stuff. Like I'm not going to walk around with 20-pound shoes on my feet. It's just not like, you got to be realistic about it, especially like you said, if you're out there for hours and hours, you're not going to want to walk around like that. But Absolutely. Thank you for those gear recommendations. Did you guys start taking photos immediately, or like when did photography come into your life?
So I've always kind of liked photography. Back in the day, I was like huge into skateboarding, like huge. This is my whole life. Growing up, I was a skateboarder, and had a couple sponsors. I was like really into it, and I was always the one who would have the camera in my hand, or back in the day, you'd have the old, the camcorders, and I would always be the one filming everyone skating. And then kind of got out of that scene, got into the car scene as I grew up, and I just always found myself with a camera in my hand, never professionally, never making too much money off it, just kind of having fun, going to car meets, shooting cars, and then I was, so I was always had a grasp on photography and cameras, and all my friends are always like, yeah, man, you should really do this for a living. You're really good at it. But it just kind of, it had always been with me in some way or another.
Yeah, I feel like I've got a similar story in that aspect of things. Like I started, when I moved, so I grew up overseas, but when I moved to California, I started going to like photography meetups that I just found on Instagram. There were like groups on Instagram that would post flyers with like the date, the time, the location. You show up, you never know what you're going to get, whether it's like cars or models or cosplayers, you know, stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was like my introduction into like American photography culture. And then through that, I found somebody that was like, I don't know how like urban exploring came up, but somebody was like, oh yeah, you know, this abandoned place. And I was like, wait a second, you got to take me, you got to take me with you. Right. And so that's how I started back in like 2016, 2015. Wow. But I mean, it's such a journey to go on. And, you know, you guys have been doing this for, you said like 3 years. What's been your favorite exploration out of those 3 years?
Oh my gosh. You know, I get asked that often. Like I said, we are new, but we've been around. I mean, I feel like we've done a lot more, than most people. We're just not afraid to get in the car and drive. We're from the Northeast, you know, Massachusetts. That's where we're from. We just got back from a giant trip, huge trip, 2-week trip on the road. We hit like 13 states. So we're all over the place. It's so hard to say a favorite. Man, I don't even know if I could even come up with a favorite on top of my head. We've hit so many good spots. Asylums, hospitals, psychiatric hospitals. That's like our favorite. So I'd probably say one we did recently. It was more southern, not what we used to. But it was amazing. Oh my God. I haven't even talked about it yet. I haven't posted anything about it. It's like super secret right now as far as like explaining where it was and stuff, but it was crazy. It was one of the ones that was on our like exploring bucket list, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So we knocked that one out of the park, and it was like just one of those ones like, wow, like you see posted it, you know, people post it and post it and post it, and you're like, wow, I'd like to make it there one day. And when you finally get a chance to actually walk in and see, you know, the room or the object you've been looking at in a photo for the past 2 years, it's like mind blowing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, those bucket list items are so cool to finally get, and it's kind of rare to actually knock them off because a lot of them are, you know, harder to reach or have high security, things like that. One of my last questions of the show is actually about bucket list items, but like, let's go to that now. Do you have any other bucket list items that you guys are trying to hit?
Oh man, I mean, there's always more. It's like a never-ending thing, you know. You're always looking for the next best thing. You know, how can I top the one I just did? You know,
yeah. What
else is out there? And you just got to look. Nothing off the top of my head right now. It's just my wife does most of the research. Mm-hmm. She's really good, you know, at finding these spots and researching everything out, and I kind of just follow along. She's kind of like the leader, you know?
Yeah, I got you. No worries. I think that's awesome. And talk about exploring alone versus exploring with, you know, somebody that you care about. You know, what's that like to, you know, go into these dangerous places with somebody that's close to you?
Yeah, I mean, so I've never explored alone. Like I said, we got into this together. I've been married for a long time. Me and my wife been together for 15, going on 16 years. So I've never done this alone. We got into it as a team, and we always will do it as a team. I feel like it's a little scary and a little weird to do something like this alone. I know some people do it. I'd be afraid to, you know, fall or get hurt or just be out in these places. Obviously, when you go to these places, no one knows you're there. You're not, you know, announcing your presence. You're not telling people, hey, I'm going to be here. Usually you don't. So if something was to go down, and it's nice to have that second person with you, especially a loved one that, you know, you can share that with. It's been a blast. It's crazy to explore with your significant other. It's really cool. You get to share that experience together, and not only just you get, you know, that experience, but just the whole trip as a whole. Just experiencing, you know, traveling and seeing different states and spots. But I only explore with one other person. Which is our buddy Corey. I think you had him on here before. Corey TheDankTeamExplores. Yep. He's a good kid, really nice guy. We met him through social media, and he's a local. He lives near us too. So we met up with him, and we explore with him a lot, you know. But I'll probably never do this alone, either with a wife. I know Corey has a couple times, but I always suggest going with someone, a friend or, you know, family member. That way you're safe, and it makes it more fun. Honestly, you know, you get to experience with other people and just share that moment.
Yeah, for sure. And, I'm a big advocate for bringing someone with you. I talk about it a lot on the show. Sometimes I'll do solo explores, but they are a little sketchier because, like you said, like people don't really know where you're at, and anything could happen in these places. Actually, the episode before yours, I talked about a recent exploration I did while I was over in Australia. I was supposed to meet up with this guy, James Urbex, who I actually had on the show quite a while ago. But I tried to meet up with him. He was unavailable, but he gave me a list of spots and he was like, go check these out. So I got to go to an abandoned shopping mall, which was cool. And to be in a foreign country exploring, like my first question was like, how are the cops here? Like, am I going to get fully arrested for doing this? And, he was like, oh, it's Australia. Like they're pretty chill. Like if you tell them you're a photographer, they'll, they won't bother you kind of thing. And I was like, damn, I wish it was like that in the States.
Yeah, right. That's really cool. He kind of gave you like the heads up though, like, hey, check this out. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. He sent me like coordinates, directions on how to get in, like a map with like highlighted drawings and shit. Dude, the guy's legit. Wow. Like what a cool dude. But for you, really cool. Like, have you ever been injured while exploring? Have you ever like fallen through a floor or anything like that?
No, luckily. I mean, we get ourselves in some pretty crazy situations, but luckily, we've both been good. Besides the, normal small cuts, scrapes, bruises, just keep pushing on. We've been okay. No major injuries. We joke all the time, as a group, because, we'll go out and like, all right, you're not going to fall today. My wife always has some kind of fall or some kind of scrape or something. She's just so adventurous. She does nothing holds her back. And, but she's been okay, though. Everything's been good. No major injuries, luckily.
Good. I love hearing that. I love the injury stories, but when there are none, I feel like that's much better.
Yeah. We got lucky, yeah, for sure.
And then tell me about your scariest explorations.
Oh, scariest. So probably one we just did recently again on this huge trip. We were down south, really, really south, like super, super south. And I wouldn't say scary as far as like the actual spot, but just the way to get in and, avoiding security. And it was like, man, I didn't think we were going to be able to pull it off. Again, the wife is just no fear. She just like, let's do this. We're here. Like, we're not backing out. I'm like, okay, let's send it. And, we're going through it. It was like, I want to say a good half-mile walk through the woods to get to this spot. And we're just like in the woods. It's like 97, 90, 95 degrees. We're sweating. And we're getting through. And we finally make it up to the buildings. We'll come up to the buildings. And we can see the island of the buildings. And we're just listening. And start walking in. You start hearing like, walkie-talkies and stuff. We're like, oh my God, like what the hell is going on? And I wasn't able to put my drone up. I usually bring a drone with me. And use the drone kind of like a surveillance before we get in. I put the drone up and I look around for cops and security, but it was raining before we got in, so I couldn't put the drone up. So I was like, let's just send it, whatever. So we get to the building, and it's just like, oh my God, there's people all around us. We can hear security talking, and we're just like sitting ducks. We're sitting there waiting it out. We sat there for like 20 minutes, and finally the guy left. And I'm like, man, we're so far from home. Like, I do not want to go to jail out here. We're in like some small town. Like, I didn't know how they treat outsiders. We're just so sketchy. But in the end, again, totally worth it. We ended up doing it successfully. Like we're in the spot we want to be. It was so funny. We're upstairs and we're just looking out the window and we like see the security at his booth. And he just like on his cell phone, like kicking rocks around, like looking around. And we're just like, yeah, we did it. We're just high-fiving and but it was scary. It was like fun scary.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So I took my girlfriend on her first exploration and it was a hospital.
Oh, nice.
And it was in a different town, in a different state. We were traveling to go just take a vacation, and she was on the way back. She was like, hey, I want to go into one of these abandoned places with you. And I was like, hold up, let me just do some research real quick and find a spot. And I found this like whole town that was kind of abandoned, this whole section of town. It was like the hospital had been there and then shut down because of like money problems. which then caused the surrounding areas to be vacated. You know, it's typically kind of how it goes with this kind of stuff. The kind of surroundings can usually become abandoned as well. So it was like hotels and doctor's offices and law firms, and you know, just everything was abandoned. And the hospital was like a huge plot of land. It was like 10 floors and had like a, you know, surgical wing. And I was like, all right, well, if you want to do this, let's go into this place. And I'm all trying to like go through a window and like find a way in. And she's like, let's just try the front door. So we walk over and there just is no door. It's just open. There's literally no front door. And I was like, okay, so you're better at this than I am. Great. But yeah, it's crazy to like bring somebody into your world and do these sketchier things. But the reason I brought that up is we're on the top floor and she's like looking out the window that isn't there. It's just a hole in the wall, right? And she's like, oh shit, there's a cop like driving around the perimeter of the place, like slow rolling past. And I'm like, there's no way he sees us. There's no way. We're so high up. He's not like driving his car and looking up at the top floor of this building, you know? So, but it's still like you get those like butterflies and you're like, fuck, if we get caught here, like we're fucked.
Yeah, right. It's like such a rush, like in a good way, but it definitely gets sketchy. That's so cool that you were able to experience that with your girl. That's awesome.
It's so rad. It's so rad. I've taken her to a couple spots now. We've done like an abandoned mansion here in the Nashville area as well, and you know, it's cool to bring her into these places. And then next week there's a boxing match happening in an abandoned boxing ring. So we're going to that.
Oh my God, I've been hearing about this for months.
Oh yeah, it's happening. We're going to be there. It's going to be crazy.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So has anything ever made you want to stop exploring? Like, has there ever been like an event that happened that you were like, maybe we should take a second?
Not really. Like I said, my wife's always the more adventurous one. She's always like, you can't scare her. You can't tell her no. It's just like, let's do this. A couple of times I wanted to back out, to be honest, and she's just like, nah, we got this. She's so positive, and she's like my drive, you know? So, no, we're always down for an exploration. I mean, always. We're just like so spur of the moment. We just get in the car, like, it'll be 10 at night, and she'll find a spot, and she'll, babe, come in here, and I'll run in there, and she's on the computer, and she's, I got something, and like, all right, book the hotel, and we just get up and go. Like, we don't plan anything. Like, so funny, I called Corey one time, and it was like 10 at night, and I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing tomorrow? And he's like, oh, I got some stuff going on. I'm like, well, you want to go to Virginia? And he's like, dude, it's like 10 p.m. I'm like, yeah, we're leaving tomorrow. Like, tomorrow morning, let's go. And he's like, all right, let's do it, So, I've never, ever wanted to really stop doing this or back out of anything, really.
Hell yeah.
It's been so much freaking fun. I've never experienced nothing like this my entire life. It's been the most fun 3 years of my life, probably. I've done more and seen more in these 3 years than I have in my whole lifetime being on this earth. I feel it's just like not only the spots, but just like I said, experiencing it with your friends and family, and it's just such a cool thing,
Yeah, definitely. And what's the farthest you've traveled to go exploring?
I was just talking about this to someone the other day, actually. They're like, wow, you travel far. We have a map in my studio that we kind of, we mark down where we've been and stuff. And as of right now, we've explored in almost 23 states. I've been pretty far from home. We just got back from a big trip. We started in Massachusetts and went all the way as far as, we were down near like the Mississippi area. Yeah. We went into Tennessee, out near you. We were everywhere. We did a huge 8-day road trip. Dope. I actually drove to Missouri for my brother's wedding, and after that we had no plans. I'm like, all right, no plans, nothing on the roster. Let's just hit as many states as we can, see as much as we can. And it was like the most craziest trip ever, but we've been pretty far. We're definitely not scared to get in the car and drive 12, 13 hours to see one thing. I've done numerous trips where I'm up for 36, 40 hours at a time just to see something. So
Dang, we do some crazy shit to go find abandoned stuff. I love it.
Oh, it's like super dedicated. Yeah. It's like people are like, you're nuts, man. Staying up for 40 hours, but it's just what it takes. These overnight trips. You just got to get it done. You got to pre-dawn some of these places.
Yep.
It's kind of it's kind of like a timing thing. You got to get in these places early sometimes, and
yeah, definitely.
I've always been like a night owl. I don't really need much sleep, so
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that the timing is everything with these things, especially like you were just talking about pre-dawning spots. I think that that's super important. I don't do it enough, honestly. Like this spot in Australia that I hit, it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. It was a public holiday. The place was in the city. There's people everywhere, and I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just gonna go
Send it.
try it. You know, the door was open, like somebody had busted it open with the like deadbolt out, so the door can't shut all the way. So I got, super lucky, and that video's up on my new YouTube channel. So I'm stoked about that one, and it turned out really cool. And I was the only one in the building. I think, I don't know.
You hope so, right?
You hope so, especially when you're by yourself. But you never really know who's in the building. But what do you do when you're not exploring abandoned places?
So I'm a sales manager for a retail store in my town. So it's a pretty chill job. Pretty much just work. I'm a car guy, really big car enthusiast, so I'm always working on my cars. But that's pretty much it, exploring and working on cars, hanging out with friends.
If you could live in one abandoned place that you've explored for an entire week, which one would it be?
Oh, man. I would probably have to say this really, really, really clean hospital we hit about a year ago. It was so clean, full power. I mean, everything. Power, water. You could use the bathroom. I mean, there was beds with sheets still like brand new in the package. You could definitely live in this place. It was perfect.
Damn, that's crazy, dude. Like, in a rare find, somewhere that's that clean and that fresh, it's those places freak me out. Like if the power's on, like I feel like I shouldn't be there. Like somebody's still paying the electricity bill.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many of these spots have power still. Like, you got the ones that are super clean. You kind of expect the power to be on. But we've been like at these like decayed buildings and the walls are falling down and the lights still turn on. It's like, oh my God, who's paying this bill? Like you said, it's mind-blowing to see what's left behind and someone's paying all these bills still.
Yeah, it's unreal, dude. It's unreal. What do you hope for the future of urban exploring?
The future. I mean, we're so new to this, I just hope everyone comes together as a group. It sucks that it's so, I don't know. It's kind of like so secretive because you obviously don't want the spots to get out, and everyone's kind of weird about it. Mm-hmm. When I first got into this, I didn't know anything about the community of Urbex or anything about this. We didn't even post on social media for the first like 6 months doing this, and we thought we got into it, and we were like, wow, like this is kind of weird. But I just hope everyone comes together and is nicer to each other and just cool because. It's just there's a lot of fighting going on and there's a lot of weird stuff in the community sometimes. Yeah. And I hope people come together and just enjoy this as a whole because they're not going to last. These buildings get in the wrong hands. They just get ruined and torched and spray painted. And I don't know. I hope we can continue to do this, and I hope that the arson stops and the graffiti stops because let's face it. The only way that these buildings are getting, demolished and stuff is because they're getting ruined. I've been in places where not many people go, and these buildings are old, and they're perfect, and they're not demoed. And I've been in other places where it's like, all right, this is going to be demoed soon because of the arson and because of people going in there and ruining it and just kind of making it worse. So I hope all that stops, and I hope we can just continue to, enjoy this and see these spots and, enjoy it with our friends and family.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there, man. I hate seeing these spots get burned, and especially like the fire. It's got to stop. Like, it's got to stop. There's no reason for that shit. There's no reason for it. Like, I recently hit a school in Detroit, and like maybe 2 weeks after I went there, some kids like burned down the theater. Like why? For what? Like what does that do for you? It's crazy to me.
I think about it all the time. Yeah, I think about it all the time. I'm like, what do they have to gain by coming here and just like smashing things,
Straight up.
ruining these like perfect spots? And I mean, obviously some of it is just, maybe homeless trying to keep warm and like something, the fire gets out of hand. But a lot of it's definitely these kids just playing around, having fun and just screwing things up.
Yeah, exactly. So my last question for you is, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started exploring?
Man. what it takes to get to these spots. You know, the time, dedication, money. We dove headfirst into this stuff. I wish that I knew more about things like being stealthy and, you know, doing the pre-dawns and just knowing my way around the building a little bit better and taking different routes and not being so like, oh, like, I don't care, like, just go in the front door. Like, let's just look for another way in. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, you know.
Dope. So thank you for coming on No Tracers. If people want to keep following your journey and your wife's journey, where can they find you guys online? What's your social media?
We are the Dank Team Explores on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. It's up and coming. We've been posting for a little while now. And we also have Facebook. So you can check us out there. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. That was Shane from the Dank Team Explores. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know by leaving a rating and feedback. It helps the podcast grow. It helps us find other listeners just like you that are interested in abandonment, decay, urban exploring, all the good stories that we have on this show. Thank you guys for doing that. If you do leave a rating and feedback, please hit me on Instagram at no.tracers with a DM, and I will actually send you a signed photo print from an abandoned place I've explored. If you guys want to get a copy of one of my books or read my blog, go to notracers.com. You can find more information there. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you want to come on the show, hit me up at no.tracers or contact@notracers.com. I'll talk to you guys next time with another episode. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, go explore something, and remember, leave no trace.